Welcome to Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I are recording this podcast on Sunday, October 18th, 2020. Let's just cut to the chase, Dustin. It's been kind of a mixed bag news-wise these past 2 weeks, at least when it comes to the Universal Parks and Resorts, don't you think?
Yeah, there's good, there's bad, there's, the big news, there's small news. It's a very nice mixed bag, which will help for our show because we'll be able to have a nice little roller coaster.
Oh, that's it. Ooh, what a transition. Okay. And speaking of roller coasters, on October 14th, the Orlando Informer captured footage in the pre-dawn hours of the Jurassic World Velocicoaster, Islands Adventure's next thrill ride, as one of the ride vehicles was seen being launched over that 50-foot or 155-foot tall hill for the very first time. So kudos to whoever got that image. What did you think? Was that shot from the parking garage or a hotel, or did they
or was that shot staged? I don't know. It looked like it was from a decent distance away. But I do have to share this because I've seen that image, the footage shared not only on regular social media for theme park fans and enthusiasts and folks in the industry, but I've also seen it shared on LinkedIn by folks who are working on the project. So the fact that it happened early in the morning and they had footage of it was very interesting for me, how they got that footage and exactly what hotel room they were staying in, because that was incredible.
Yeah, and let's be honest here, especially given the 2020, that any bit of good news in regard to the theme park industry. So the fact that this coaster is testing and the ride vehicle, again, it's in the dark. But it looks spectacular. I honestly would not be surprised if a team member reached out and said, hey, just coincidentally, if you're in a hotel room and happen to be looking out a window at 5:35, I'm just saying that maybe. On the other hand, speaking of this 155-foot tall section of track, just today, Thrill Geek got an image of that very persistent osprey who keeps returning to the top of the Velocicoaster, and because he or she thinks it's a great spot to build a nest. And honestly, I've talked with the folks at Universal Orlando about this. They have tried everything to persuade this raptor to move along so they can bring in their other raptors, but the osprey isn't going to take. It just won't take the hint, and I have this uneasy feeling that this story is going to end very, very badly, Dustin.
I agree wholeheartedly. We all know what's going to happen. They're going to come and be like, hey, I just caught a fish. I have a great location to go and eat that fish. And then 24 seconds later, it's going to be like, well, there's the fish.
Have you ever seen any of the footage or the imagery from when Fabio opened Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg back in March of '99?
Yes, and just yes.
Okay.
I know where you're going with this.
Well, this is the thing, all right? They bring Fabio down because, again, the idea is this is, and then their Italy section, and it's, Apollo, a god. So they bring a godlike being, Fabio, the male model known for his looks, to open the attraction. So they put him in the front seat of the coaster and they send it out. And so all of the media is standing there waiting for Fabio to come back into the station to get their shots. And what nobody knows is as the coaster's out on the track, because again, it's only been set up for a while, and it's going out over the river that circles through and around Busch Gardens Williamsburg, a goose flies in front of the coaster and hits Fabio smack in the face. So as the train pulls into the station, if you can go look at this yourself now, here is Fabio with blood streaming down his face. He's got like a gash on his nose between his eyes. And again, that then became the story. Not, Busch Gardens Williamsburg opens this new cutting edge coaster, but Fabio gets hit smack in the face with a goose. So
that does remind me of the. Do you remember when Jimmy Fallon was doing live video from in Universal, and he went with Kevin Hart to ride the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, and halfway through he got nailed in the eye with a bug.
Yep. Yeah.
Not as cool as a goose. But, it's still a wild roller coaster ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, anyway, folks, I have the uneasy feeling that the Osprey Velocicoaster story is going to end in an explosion of feathers. And, but again, that's kind of 2020 in a nutshell, isn't it? Just an up and down thrill ride, and then you get hit in the face by a goose. So, but anyway, so how about this, Dustin? Let's get to the news proper now. So before we get started, I want to say that the news portion of today's show is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of Universal Joint. For a worry-free travel experience, please visit StorybookDestinations.com. So we were just talking about Jurassic Park stuff, and I think we had just recorded the last show when this news broke. But kind of a sign of where the powers that be, at least in Hollywood, think, where we are in the curve in regard to COVID vaccine, or at least some sort of workable treatment plan for the coronavirus. But, what were your thoughts when Jurassic World Dominion got moved from June 11th, 2021, all the way out to June 10th, 2022.
Oh, it doesn't shock me at all. We're in a process right now where you have actors and production and crew that are traveling to all ends of the world that as soon as there is one single COVID positive test, the entire production goes silent for 2 weeks. And you don't know, you can't predict whether or not something will happen. You could institute a bubble, but there's also things like food and like other medical things that aren't within that bubble that require access. We saw it with the NHL and with the NBA. You can really only create your bubble when you're in one specific location. Jurassic World Dominion, they're traveling. They need different shots from different locations. So because of that uneasiness and the ability to have, something go wrong at any given point, I'm very impressed that they went through and said, instead of June 11, 2021, we're going to give us time for whatever could happen in 2020 going into 2021, just in case something does go wrong. They have that time to still do their PR machine and really play.
Well, speaking of which, that I have to tell you, having friends on the PR side at Universal, especially Parks and Resort, they were sorely disappointed that, Jurassic World Dominion got pushed back because, of course, the Jurassic World, the Velocicoaster, that they were going to, try to have, try to tie the two projects together, try to, that there was even talk about, if you've seen the movie at City Walk and you come into the park, they were going to, and you show your ticket, they were going to, I think there was a poster giveaway or something to that effect.
Oh, wow.
But that's fallen by the wayside. Now, mind you, though, that they may default in that case to Camp Cretaceous, which, by the way, I don't know if you heard the news coming out of New York Comic Con just last week, but we're definitely getting season 2. In fact, they showed the teaser trailer for season 2. Didn't get terribly specific about when that's going to drop on Netflix, other than 2021. Though, again, poking at friends there, they suggested the latter part of the first quarter of next year, more likely the early part of Q2. So, in normal human being speak, that's either March or April, folks. So, anyway, and speaking of streaming services, Did you catch the cold opening of the first episode of Hulu's Animaniac reboot?
I love Animaniacs. I love everything about this story. I love that they brought the original voices back. I love everything. To the extent that I, to this day, still sing Countries of the World anytime I'm listening or working on something that I need to just focus on it. It's Country of the World, and I'm learning my U.S. presidents just from those original, early 90s episodes. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. Well, that's I don't. Again, if you haven't seen this particular piece of video, folks, head to YouTube now, because what they basically do is to relaunch the series. The first 90 seconds or so of the very first episode of the new Animaniacs reboot is this wonderfully funny and very affectionate send-up of one of the more memorable scenes of the original Jurassic Park. And to say any more would spoil it. So just go take a look at it. Enjoy. All right. So in an alternate timeline, sometime this past summer, I would have traveled out to the West Coast, not only to experience the recently retooled Jurassic Park River Ride, now Jurassic World River Ride, at Universal Studios Hollywood, as well as tried on for size Secret Life of Pets Off the Leash, which, remember, was supposed to open March 27th of this year.
March. What happened in March?
Yeah,
I can't remember what happened in March.
Well, Governor Newsom remembers very clearly what happened in March. In fact, he's especially paying attention to what's going around the country right now. And California's actually managed to sort of keep coronavirus at bay, especially, which is impressive, given the size of the states, and more to the point, given the number of states around the U.S., that are, experiencing spikes. And in fact, didn't Canada just close the border again?
Canada never reopened the border.
Okay.
So we've had different segments of the country, just like in the States, where you'll have different areas go into either a phase 2, phase 3. In Toronto, we a week and a half ago got bumped back from phase 3 into a modified phase 2, which took away all of the inside dining experiences and closed gyms and closed a lot of things. But the thing with coronavirus and COVID-19 is that it's not just one wave or two waves. We're talking about something that could continuously pop its head up for years to come.
Yeah. Well, but the interesting thing is that, yes, those Southern California theme parks are closed, but Universal, obviously from the construction of, the Velocicoaster, and likewise all the work that's been going on for Super Nintendo Land. In fact, I don't know if you've seen the photos that were recently taken from somebody standing up on the hill looking down. But they've started to install those, distinctly, Mario Kart green mountains to hide the giant show building.
I love that Universal tends to build things in clear day, just right there, like the Velocicoaster. We're not building a roller coaster. No. Well, what's that in front of the lagoon? Like, it's right there. When you're going down the escalators at Universal Studios Hollywood, you can kind of tell that there's construction. In fact, when you go on the tram tour, you go right past the construction site. So it's not like it's, hidden. No. Incredibly popular.
But at the same time, what's especially interesting this week is, in fact, you pointed this out as we were pre-gaming, Dustin, that, what was it, on this October 16th at Universal Studios Japan, we had the Mario Cafe and Shop open. And for those of you who've been to the park, this sort of teaser store or teaser experience for Super Nintendo Land is housed inside of the Schwab's Pharmacy in the Dark Room. And again, supposedly this is a temporary setup that in 2021, when the land itself opens up, that Schwab's and the dark room will return to its classic Hollywood theming. But have you seen any of the merch of the food items that are being offered?
Absolutely. As a fan of the classic Mario and Luigi and all of those characters, I just fell in love with everything. But that's because I'm also a merch geek. So I've tried to figure out if Universal Studios Japan sends to Canada. But, all I need is a reason to go over there and, open up borders and that kind of thing. And I'll be able to get one of those Mario and Luigi fruit pancake sandwiches.
Yeah. Now, again, okay. So just to describe this, in fact, Alice, my daughter Alice, has been my pipeline for Super Nintendo Land. Whenever anything breaks out of Japan, she instant messages me. But these Mario and Luigi fruit pancake sandwiches, they are pancake shaped like hats that are then folded in half like a taco, right? And again, given what is it? Mario's hat is red and Luigi's hat is green. What is it? The Mario fruit pancake hat features strawberries, and I want to say that the Luigi's features melon.
Yeah, I was hoping it wasn't kale, so melon is a good option.
Good. Yes, you and I have the same reaction to kale. What did you think, however, of the Toad souvenir sipper?
Oh, so you're asking about the Toad souvenir sipper. That makes sense. So not the binders, the water bottles, the ballpoint pen set, face towel, keychains, PJ sets, t-shirts, hoodies, masking tape set, phone case, ID pass case, socks, sparkly and unsparkly clothing, jewelry, Mario and Luigi caps, and like 700 other items. Okay, well, I'm just going to kind of leave and do a quick Google search. I'll be back, though.
Well, I get that. I truly do. But I'm asking you specifically about the Toad sipper, as I'm sure you've seen the reaction online that, I guess for years people have wondered, because again, Toad is the character with a toadstool hat. And it's like, what was under the toadstool hat? And now we finally have an answer. It's a flesh-colored oblong drink container that's genuinely disturbing. When Alice sent me the pictures, we both agreed that it's like, wow, okay, I think Universal has just found its newest monster.
Yet they may have gone a little bit far.
Yep.
But you have to try new things. I just want, honestly, they can keep the sipper. They can keep all the actual plastic. I want the lanyards that go along with them.
Okay, because I have to admit, I was looking at, because again, remember, this is, you're kind of in that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge situation where you're looking at that first round of merch that's being put out for the Bazaar for Batuu. And I have to admit, the whole notion of, first of all, the Who's Cap tagline, and then it's on, again, you got to remember, we're months out from the actual open of the land, but it's fairly standard stuff. I mean, travel mugs, toiletry bags, pins, hats, throw pillows, T-shirts. But it gets just who's cap? Is that something that gamers will react to, or am I missing the point?
No, it's the Instagram and social media and TikTokers and all that other stuff. They're basically going to throw all the merchandise out at the public to see what will stick. And who knows if this is going to be just an opening, and then as soon as they figure out exactly what works, they'll just mass produce and then do different versions of that thing. Because we're seeing that right now with Disney and Loungefly bags. Originally, there were a couple of them. Now they realize that whatever sells, they're going to mass produce them and turn them into series and create the vinylmation, create all these different styles. It's interesting looking at the price point breakdowns from the yen over to the US dollar. It's actually fairly reasonable. T-shirts are going from $35 to $40, towels, pins, like they have a pin set a Luigi Who's Cap pin set, which is, it looks like 4 pins for $15. That's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. But again, folks, want to caution you, if you want to get this stuff, move quickly, because again, temporary store. In fact, to tell you how temporary it is, the signage for this place, because again, the outside, if you look at it, it still says Schwab, still says Darkroom. The only way they designate it, it is a temporary neon sign. Which, again, soon as Super Nintendo Land opens in Japan, this all goes away. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they do something similar at Universal Studios Hollywood, kind of put a pop-up store and, help build enthusiasm. By the way, as of right now, my understanding is, again, and I want to caution folks, this is all, kind of keying off of the hope that there will, in fact, be a COVID vaccine or, at least a viable treatment, early next year. But they're talking about a summer 2022 opening of Super Nintendo Land at Hollywood. But, again, and that's great news. But on the other hand, since July of this year, Dustin, Universal Hollywood has cut roughly 2,200 jobs. And supposedly over 1,300 of those job cuts are permanent, whereas roughly 900 folks have been told, it's like, we hope that, these layoffs will be temporary. And please note the use of the word hope.
Yeah.
And, Universal Orlando Resort went through several rounds of staff reductions earlier this year. We've talked about them on the show. And again, the hope at that time was, and again, there's that word again, they hoped they would be the last of the layoffs for a while, at least as far as the Universal Orlando Resort was concerned. And unfortunately, October 8th, Universal Orlando announced that there would be further layoffs of team members. Interesting thing, though, Dustin, they made a point of saying not hourly employees this time around.
Okay.
Okay, here's the official statement. We continue to manage our business through challenging times, and we again have made the difficult decision to reduce our workforce as we position our business for the future. These positions are throughout our organization, but do not include our hourly workers. We continue to be aware of the impact that this will have on those affected by this action, and we are working to help support them through the process. My concern is we are at this point just 2 weeks out from Halloween. And once October 31st comes and goes, I mean, well, face it, there's been kind of an artificial boost of attendance at least Universal Studios Florida. Because of those 200 Halloween Horror Night mazes, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy and Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. And you got to assume those are going to close, the first week of November or thereabouts.
Yeah, I don't see them doing the, Walking Dead thing where it's open for all year round, because it's not just the maze itself. You're looking at high labor costs. Yeah. So if people are going in, like, I would love to see those year round, but that's because I love the quality that goes into a Halloween haunted house or, Halloween Horror Nights 29.5, as we're calling this. But yeah, it makes me wonder what's going to happen.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I don't know if you saw Universal Orlando has just launched kind of a smaller, stripped-down version of their VIP tour, and it's targeting annual pass holders. My buddy Jeremiah Good, he writes for laughingplace.com. He just took this tour and did a write-up of it. And basically, it's a foreshortened version of the VIP tour that they do at the parks. This one, however, is branded the VIP Thrill Tour. $59 a person plus tax. It's offered twice a day, starting at 9:30 and 2:30 p.m. And it gets you backstage at Mummy, which is, I have to say, spectacular. I've been lucky enough to do a couple of behind-the-scenes tours with Universal, and again to get in the old Confrontation building and to see how Mummy, how much of Kong is still in there, and some of the amazing technology they use to do Mummy. They take you upstairs at Jimmy Fallon to that wonderful lounge space that you and I when we did the Starbucks Destination event last year.
Yeah, we were up there multiple times, and actually one of my favorite things, and it's still something that I wish that everyone who listens to the show got a chance to see, but it was you were having a conversation with #ThePanda.
Well,
and it happened, and it was great. And to this day, it was that and watching Mannheim Steamroller, with hashtag. And I'm like, this is amazing. Everyone needs to come to a future event. And then 2020 happened.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, you kind of understand, hashtag and I, we go way back.
Of course.
Guys with entirely too much back hair and very pasty complexions. So, we have a lot in common. Anyway, okay, so this VIP thrill tour, 2.5 hours long. They throw in a souvenir lanyard, and you get a snack of Who Hash. But the kicker, actually, if you want a really spectacular picture of especially the Velocicoaster, what they do as part of this is they take you over to Confisco Grill, which is just there in the port of call off to the right. But they take you upstairs. There's this wonderful lounge space that they've converted into an annual pass holder lounge, the Navigator Club. And what's great is as part of this tour, they take you out of that building, and I don't know as you remember as you enter that park just before, you come to the lagoon. There's a bridge that goes over the port of entry, and it really sort of, it helps frame the park. I mean, you have that wonderful reveal as you go past that point, and suddenly here's the entire lagoon in front of you, and there's the Jurassic Park Discovery Center, and now with the coaster, and off to the side you get the Harry Potter castle, and the Hulk over there, and but the interesting thing is, you can't really get that picture because there's trees in front of you. But what they do as part of this tour is they take you out onto that bridge that provides the frame, and so for once you can actually shoot over the trees and get this absolutely amazing vista of Islands of Adventure.
So it's all about these guys are really going towards the local pass holder, because that's exactly what we all want. We want the best photo, and if it's $60, that's fine. For those of you who have done the VIP tour experience prior, it's the full day experience starting at $189 per person. Gets you all the front of line, behind the scenes, but it also gives you the complimentary continental breakfast and lunch. So it looks like this is, kind of leaning towards the folks who have been to the parks before. They want that little extra something. They don't need a meal. They just want a snack, and then go on with their day. Great value at $60 compared to the full day.
No, I totally agree. Interesting thing, though, is they're offering this in October. It's kind of a trial balloon. And the hope is if it gets a strong enough reaction, this will be something that will continue into November and December, with the hope that, as you just mentioned, that this is, aimed at folks who already have annual passes, to the two Universal parks. And they're trying to invent reasons for these people to come back to the park. And face it, until the holiday decorations get up, that weird gulf between Halloween Horror Nights and when the Universal holidays at Universal featuring Macy's gets underway. That's a tough time to convince annual pass holders to go to the park. Though maybe someone will go back to check out this new window that you clued me into. Do you want to talk about the window honoring Mr. Kern?
Yeah, so as many folks know, the concept of putting the creators and contributors of theme parks from Disney and Universal has been long-standing. It's incredible to think about all of the folks who have, helped these experiences into what they are today. We now have a brand new window of a guy who many of us may not know, but definitely have seen his work. Blaine Kern, also known as Mr. Mardi Gras.
Yep, yeah. And to give you a little background here, when Universal decided 25 years ago that they were going to have their own Mardi Gras parade in the park, they felt, well, I mean, let's do it upright. Let's reach out to the folks who actually do the real Mardi Gras in New Orleans and see how many of them might be willing to come join us up here in Orlando, or excuse me, down here in Orlando, to do this. And Mr. Kern at that point had been producing parade floats for various crews for decades, and he was honestly thrilled to get the invite and to showcase his work to a new crowd. And the interesting thing is each year, the floats that he did for Universal got more and more elaborate, and some genuinely spectacular work that he really enjoyed, because again, it wasn't just the folks in New Orleans. It was people from around the world. And more to the point, remember, the Mardi Gras at Universal runs for weeks and weeks and weeks. So, it was a larger audience that got to see his work. And Blaine, enjoyed his relationship with Universal right up to the end. We lost him in June of this year at the age of 93. And the folks at Universal genuinely enjoyed working with Blaine, and this is why when we lost him, they decided they have to do something to honor him. And what's really kind of cool is that the way they chose to do this is there's a window on the second floor. I want to say it's the horror makeup show, and they deliberately chose the window on the second floor of that building because that's where all of the parade floats enter the park from, and it's just the whole notion of the very first place that people see Blaine's work. That's where we want to put his window. So, but I have to admit now, that I mean, for years I've, looked at the windows, and every so often I've recognized the name, but now I got to go around it and do a better job of checking out the second floor windows to see who else has been honored over the years. In that, I guess, especially along the Hollywood Boulevard area, there's a lot of that stuff. So, yeah.
And it's all about the idea that a lot of folks who go to the theme parks don't really know how it got there. So absolutely, Disney and Universal have always done really good by this. And the next time we're down there, I'm pretty sure we could probably do a tour, a full-fledged morning of just going from window to window.
Okay, well, all right. And we'll have to see how many Peacock logos we get. Speaking of Peacock, let's see. The media consultant group Kantar just came back with news on a survey. Of course, we've talked previously about Comcast Peacock, the subscription streaming service that NBC Universal recently launched. And according to the folks at Kantar, a third quarter of 2020, Peacock actually claimed the top spot. It had got 17.2% of all new subscriptions. Now, mind you, right behind them at 16% was Amazon Prime. And then from there, HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Hulu. Those are the top five. Now, of course, it's worth noting here that Peacock literally has just come out of the box. So it makes sense that it would be the number one. Though Disney's no slouch either. Did you see that stat where what was it? Disney's goal with its subscription streaming service was they wanted to have Disney Plus up to 100 million paid subscribers 5 years in. And by August of this year, they were already at 60.5 million. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. But again, that's, it's come at a price, between Onward and, Hamilton and now just the news about Soul coming on Christmas Day. But all right, other Universal related news. Universal Beijing, Tom Merleman, the president manager of Universal Beijing, spoke at the Blue Loop V Expo on October 14th, and had all sorts of news. They're on track to begin trial operations in the late winter, early spring of next year on site there in Beijing, and it's still planning, not hoping, on making their opening date in May of 2021. The construction on all the main buildings is complete. Ride and show installation is well underway. In fact, kind of interesting, on October 13th, they put out an Instagram post that showed that the iconic Universal Globe that they've built there on site is assembled and is spinning. So,
oh, wow.
Yep. A couple of interesting things coming out of his presentation. The Minion Land that they're building there will feature more than 100 minions. And now, mind you, it's going to have a Gru's house just like Universal Hollywood does and Universal Studios Florida, but in this case, it's a restaurant.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you go in and they are offering coffee and cakes, and it's like, I don't know about you folks, but going to a supervillain's house and having any kind of, especially food that's supposedly prepared by the Minions. I would honestly, well, first of all, it's kind of a gimme that they would serve banana bread there, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Everything should have bananas in it.
There you go. All right. So I'm going to be intrigued to see how that plays out. Speaking of food, Universal Beijing is going to have the world's largest version of the Toothsome's Chocolate Emporium and Savory Feast Kitchen. They're also going to have the very first Red Oven Pizza Bakery and Cowfish Sushi Burger Bar outside of the United States. And I have to admit, big fan of Cowfish. I'm going to be interested to see how that gets embraced over there.
Yeah, I was kind of interested when they said the world's largest, but then it makes sense because they are building this from scratch.
Yep.
All the other toothsomes have gone into existing structures.
That's an excellent point. In fact, it's going to be interesting to see, how exactly they do this. But anyway, let's be honest, one of the reasons they need the world's largest toothsome is they're projected to have more than 10 million visitors, the first year this place is open.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, Merriam was talking about, people were asking him about COVID and does this concern, it's a little scary to be launching a park and a resort, in this situation. He's like, no, you don't understand that, that because right now so many of the Chinese are reluctant to travel overseas because of what's going on in the States and that sort of thing, to have a brand new domestic, a destination is like, it's the right thing at the right time. And in fact, here's a quote. Merman said, the Chinese people are confident in their country, confident in the COVID-19 related controls their government has put in place, which is why this is a time of great opportunity and why we think the Universal Studios Beijing Resort is well-timed and well-positioned to take advantage of that opportunity. Now, mind you, Universal felt the same way in February 31 when Dracula went out in the theaters and became this monstrous hit. And really, I didn't mean to say monstrous hit, but I did. But they wanted to, they felt like they were well-positioned to take advantage of that hit horror film and Bela Lugosi's performance in it, but things didn't work out quite as planned, which Dustin and I will get to in a moment.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
This episode is brought to you by CBS. DMV is a brand new workplace comedy turning misery into magic and chaos into comedy. Starring Harriet Dyer and Tim Meadows, DMV is here to serve you laughs. Watch Mondays at 8:30, 7:30 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
And we're back. Okay, we're picking up from where we left off with the last episode of Universal Giant, and we're talking about the film that supposedly kicked off the Universal Classic Monsters franchise, which was 1931's Dracula. And if you listen to the last show, you know that Carl Laemmle Jr. Secured the film rights to Dracula in June of 1930. And he was hoping to make this a vehicle to bring Lon Chaney back to the studio in a multi-million-dollar film where, Chaney was going to play not only Dracula, but Professor Van Helsing. But then Lon Chaney dies of a throat hemorrhage in August 26th of that year. And, so Chaney's literally out of the picture at this point. And Carl Jr.'s dream of Universal producing a billion-dollar epic version or sound version of Dracula, which would then rival, the studio's great silent horror films of the 20s like Hunchback and Phantom, is now, DOA. But the interesting thing, at this same time, literally in August of 1930, Dustin, a touring company of the stage play version of Dracula arrives in California. And given that Bela Lugosi is once again playing the title role in this production, the Laemmle family en masse hops on a train, goes up to Oakland, and catches a performance of what's subtitled The Vampire Play. And, Carl Sr., the head of the studio, likes what he sees. More to the point, Universal has already paid for the film rights to Bram Stoker's novel, but without a star like Lon Chaney to anchor the project, there's just no way the studio, especially, still reeling, from the stock market collapse in 29, is going to do $1 million epic, build it around a stage actor. So, Carl Sr. turns to Carl Jr. and says, look, I will give you a third of what we were going to spend with Lon Chaney. You can have, $355,000, but that's it. And the interesting thing is because now you have to shrink in the size of the project. Carl Jr. turns around and, he's got the novel, but he turns around and acquires the screen rights to the stage version because he figures, well, it's a smaller scale because it's a version of the story because of course it's done on stage, and more to the point, if we're going to get Bela involved, he's already done that. This is stuff he's familiar with. So all in all, it's making all of these financial decisions, and the cheapness continues, Dustin, because they know that Bela, this is his most famous role, and so he'd of course love to get it on film. So they know they don't have to pay him top dollar, because he's so desperate to do this. So they're like, all right, tell you what, we'll pay you $500 a week. and it's a 7-week long shoot. So he gets $3,500 total for appearing in this classic horror film. Now, put that in perspective. Lon Chaney, when he was working at MGM, used to get paid $3,500 a week.
Yeah, that's the difference between on stage and movies, and the whole concept of when you're, going and putting this type of effort out there to do a stage version. A lot of folks who are in the movie industry are like, oh, we could just show up, we'll film one of your performances, and we'll make all of our money. It'll be great.
Well, but the weird thing here is they were so determined with Dracula to be as cost-effective as possible. They actually shot 3 versions of the same movie. Mm-hmm. So we have, first the classic Dracula starring Bela Lugosi. But you got to remember that sound came in 1927, but again, not every studio, not every theater in America had changed over yet to sound. Mm-hmm. So it was a common practice to shoot, the scene as a talkie, and then to do another take where, just you had them act, but with the understanding that they were going to have titles inserted. So there was a silent version done of Dracula as well. But here's the kicker, and this is honestly one of the more fascinating parts of the story. They would finish shooting Dracula every day at 6:00, and everyone would walk off the set as a brand new crew came in to shoot the Spanish version of Dracula.
Oh, wow.
So, and the weird part of it is you can go on YouTube right now. In fact, I sat and watched about 40 minutes of this the other night. It's got, Carlos Villeras as Condos Dracula. And the weird part of this is this film disappeared for decades. That it was, Dracula was a huge hit in English and Spanish, went around the world, and for some reason, the prints just disappeared. And it was only in the 1970s that they found a print and then restored it. And it's fascinating if you could sort of toggle back and forth between the Bela Lugosi Dracula and the Spanish Dracula, because it's different rhythms. I mean, it's the same sets, and so in some cases it's the same costumes, but it's a slightly different movie. And in fact, there's a lot of folks who flat out say the Spanish version of Dracula is so much better than the English version. So I'll leave it to you folks to go check it out. But anyway, again, they ram this. This starts shooting in September of 1930. Dracula is out in theaters by February 14th, 1931. So that's 5 months.
Yeah.
All right. And it's a smash hit. Again, it cost $355,000 to make. It sells $4.2 million worth of tickets. And you got to remember, this is back when tickets at 35 cents a piece. And as far as Universal Studios was concerned, they felt like they'd won the lottery. Because again, you can remember, 1929 stock market falls, and so as Universal going into 1930 loses $2.2 million. And so they're desperate for a hit. And the fact that Dracula shows up and, just the New York engagement at the Roxy Theater, they sell 50,000 tickets. Mm-hmm. So it eventually, this film all by itself generates a $700,000 profit for the studio, and it turns around the entire year for Universal. So they're like, oh, well, we got to do another one of these. Let's strike while the iron is hot. And remember, Carl Sr., we talked about in this last show, didn't want to make horror movies, but as soon as Dracula made money, it's like, oh, we're in the horror business right now. So they immediately turn around, buy the screen rights to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And, and again, same playbook from Dracula that they decide, it's like, well, we got the novel, but make sure you get the stage version because that'll be easier to film. But they want Bela to play the monster. And in fact, the weird thing is right now, if you Google Bela Lugosi and Frankenstein, you can see the teaser poster that Universal had produced and, released to theaters, with the notion of, it's a coming attraction for the movie they haven't even made yet. But it says, no man has ever seen his like, and no woman has ever felt his white-hot kiss. Let's see. Surpasses in thrills even Dracula, the world's greatest holdover picture in 1930 with Bela Lugosi, Dracula himself, as the leading spine chiller in a story that has thrilled the world for years. But it's this amazing poster of Frankenstein, and the face sort of looks like Bela Lugosi, but also Frankenstein has laser beams shooting out of his eyes, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. But anyway, so they turn to Bela, and it's like, hey, we've lined up your next picture, and Bela initially is not interested. Because, he reads the book and it's like, okay, well, great. The monster has all these great speeches as an actor. I want that. But the stage play, all the Frankenstein's monster did was grunt. And, it's like, and so Bela is quoted as saying, I was a star in my country. I won't be a scarecrow in this one. But again, a guy who, took a role for only $3,500 and is trying to still make it to Hollywood isn't a really place to turn it down. So June 17th, 1931, they bring Lugosi in to do a screen test. And Jack Pierce, the guy who invented the classic horror, makeup that we know today for Frankenstein monster, the flat top and the bolts and the electrodes on the side of the neck. He hadn't necessarily come up with that look yet. So they throw a fright wig on Bela and slap some mud on him and shoot him sort of lurching about as the monster. And they bring it to Carl Laemmle Sr., to watch. And the story is that Laemmle couldn't stop laughing. It's just like, no, this isn't going to work. We need somebody else. And so they fire Lugosi. They fire the original director of the movie, Robert Florey, and they bring in James Whale. And they then, and this is the thing, things moved so quickly back then. They hired Boris Karloff to play the role of the monster. But again, it's still, it's the Bela Lugosi playbook. They offer him $500 a week. And in this case, it's only a 30-day shoot, not a 7-week-long shoot. And 3 months later, it's out in theaters. And, November 21st, 1931, it's just 8 months after Dracula debuted in theaters. And it's made for less money than Dracula. It's made for $267,000, $90,000 less than Dracula. It ends up doing $5.4 million worth of ticket sales. So it's $1.2 million more than Dracula in ticket sales. And to this day, I mean, I know on other shows, we've talked about the Disney Vault and the pieces that are in there, tests for films and that sort of thing. And
are you talking about like things like what was my favorite one? Nicolas Cage as Superman, and just things that people read for that they do a screen test and they're not the right fit.
Yeah.
But that footage still exists.
Well, this is the thing that the belief is that somewhere in the Universal Vaults, somewhere is the Lugosi test for Frankenstein. And because the interesting thing is Lugosi does, in fact, play Frankenstein's monster in a movie 12 years later, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which was released in March of 1943. And the weird part of it is it's that movie that creates the Frankenstein monster that we know today, the the stiff walk and the arms out in front of, the monster with his eyes closed. Because, in that particular iteration of the film, the monster had been left blind. And, also, I guess the original cut of the film had Lugosi. I mean, again, the only reason he took the role was the monster was finally allowed to speak. But when they did test screenings of it, people heard, "I am Frankenstein's monster," they laughed. And so they wound up cutting out every piece of dialogue that Lugosi did. Now, the weird part is, so he plays Frankenstein's monster, but he doesn't play Dracula again in a Universal movie till 1948. At the end of a series of interconnected horror movies that would predate the interconnected movies that make up the Marvel Cinematic Universe by almost 60 years. And we will discuss that film in the next installment of the series when Dustin and I churn out a new Universal joint in 2 weeks or so. But until then, Dustin, what are you up to these days?
We're 2 weeks out from Halloween, so basically I'm in the business of getting really cheap Halloween candy. Usually by this point we would be down in Florida. We'd be doing a lot of projects and such. So the only thing that I have going on right now, outside of Steps to Magic, is the project that Jill and I have started with the Wi-Fi Adventures.
That's right. Yeah.
And we've been testing out possible podcasts and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we're just, kind of doing what most people who are in the hospitality industry are doing, which is figuring out what could possibly happen. So I'm spending a lot of time learning new skills and talking to friends about what hospitality could look like in 2021 and what everything could end out for all of us. But I have been listening to a lot of your other shows, and I have been so impressed at how not just positive everyone have been, kind of through this entire thing, but how the other shows like Marvelous and just all of them combined, they're a great escape from the real world. So I do appreciate that, and I thank you for doing all of that with your other co-hosts.
Well, and that's very kind of you to say. But again, that I'm not the only guy here. There's a lot of other people doing a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, we got Len Testa, who I work with on the Disney Dish. We've got Dan Z, who I do Looking at Lucasfilm with. We have Aaron Adams, who I do the Marvelous Disney show with. Drew Taylor, who I do Fine Tuning with, and Shelley Valladolid. In fact, we're going to try to get a new I Want That out the door. And if you thought the hospitality industry is having, problems, you should talk to the people who work in merch.
Yeah. Have you asked her about what she wants from the all the Mario and Luigi stuff?
Again, Alice is the straight pipe there. I don't know. And Alice has ways. In fact, when they were doing the Lupin, live street, stage show there in the park, they actually did. Those of you who know the Lupin television series, the animated series, they have this teeny tiny little car that the four main characters cram into and go off and have adventures. And what they did over there as part of the Lupin Fest is they made a popcorn container of this car, and Alice, through her various machinations, managed to get somebody to go to the park to get her one and then ship it to her. So as a Lupin fan, she's very proud of her but again, I forget what flavor popcorn, because evidently she can still smell it. So,
oh my,
it's just hope it wasn't seaweed. Anyway, folks, tell you what, if you could do Dustin and I a favor, if you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend Universal Joint, that would be very helpful. If you really, really, really like what you heard today, if you could head to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be helpful. Dustin, what about social media? I know I've seen you on Twitter and that sort of thing. Where can folks find you in that space?
Yeah, so I'm over at Dustin Fuhs on Twitter, Instagram. I'm also at Steps to Magic. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. I just love seeing people when they're out and about going to Universal. Obviously, if you aren't following BioReconstruct over on Twitter, we have to give him our every show we have to talk about BioReconstruct because he's awesome. So definitely follow him because you want to see this the story of the Osprey continue.
I don't. I really don't want to see that explosion of feathers. But okay. But Nancy would also want me to remind you folks that social media wise, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. So. Okay, so that's going to do it for this week. Dustin and I will be back in 2 weeks, and here's hoping that nothing happens to the Osprey between now and then. I really want that bird to go find someplace else to live, because I don't want that to be the story of the opening weekend of the Velocicoaster. Raptor takes out Raptor. So
yeah, there's some rooms over at the Aventura I'm pretty sure they can get.
Well, there we go. All right. Thanks again, folks.